studio. It's open. Halloween. Please close the door behind you.
In the late 80s, New Beat, which originated in Belgium, played a significant role for DJs involved in electronic music. One of the best-known faces surely includes Nikki van Lierop, alias Jade4U. Under numerous pseudonyms, she released countless tracks, which she produced mainly together with Maurice Engelen. Later, as part of the producer trio MNO, with projects such as Fantasia and Digital Orgasm, Nikki was responsible for a number of highlights at a time during which there was a flowing transition from new beat to techno. Towards the end of the 90s, things quietened down for her, which is all the more reason to pay her a visit in her hometown Antwerp and to find out exactly what she's up to nowadays.
I got into professional music making when I was 24. It's many centuries ago. I did an audition for Maurice for Praga Khan. And that's how it all started. He wanted to do this project called 101, Rock to the Beat. And I got to the studio and I had to sing Rock to the Beat. And I thought it was the most boring thing in my life that I ever had to do. Rock to the beat, rock to the beat, rock to... But I couldn't believe how successful that became. Because I came from a completely different background, you know? Funk, soul, disco. And all of a sudden I was thrown into this darker thing, you know, and then they stuck a name to it, New Beat. Rock to the beat, to the 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 rock to the beat. I used a lot of different names, and I don't think it was a very good idea, but I didn't really have much of a choice because we made so many records and we tried to be as diverse as possible. So not too many records sound... I mean, when we made a track that sounded slightly different from the other ones, we'd stick a new name to it. What did we have? There was 101, Miss Lie, Jade4U. So many, I don't even remember. My memory is gone. And people would tell me, it's confusing. You're never going to get famous if you're going to have 25 different names. And they were right, of course. But I don't know, it seemed to make sense at the time, you know. I was so proud to be part of that scene. At that time, I didn't quite realize. I didn't understand what the big deal was. New Beat was not my style of music at all, really. I was a disco girl, you know. And then I was thrown into this thing, and I couldn't believe people could like anything as boring as that. Just a 4/4, boom, boom, boom. Very slow, actually, with some spoken words on it. Not too many, for God's sake. Let's not have people sing to it. I'm a singer, so I was really frustrated. So, but looking back, I'm just so happy that I was part of that scene. And that when they talk about New Beat, they will talk about me. It's not an ego thing, but just to tell kids today. You know, kids today, they're too young to have seen it, and now they're sort of going to their parents' records and they're like, what's this, what's this?
I want to take the early morning train to a foreign country with less rain. I want my friends to come along. I guarantee we'll have great fun. I want to go to sand and sea. Want to get away from this misery. I want to make love on golden sand and walk around hand in hand.
New Beat quickly evolved into techno. It sort of happened automatically because these slow beats were very interesting. But from then on, you could only go up. Faster beats, louder noises, creating a wall of sound with synths, and it was actually, it's normal it turned into techno. And Maurice Braga Khan, and I, we found Oliver Adams. And then we formed a team, the producers team, very strong team, MNO, Maurice, Nikki, Oliver. And we started to produce things you know, Praga Khan featuring Jade4U. Then there would be an Oliver Adams track. Then there would be a Digital Orgasm grew out of it as well. And we just became really good at producing techno. Yeah, somehow we got it, you know?
Join me in my dream, my trip to fantasy. I'm floating on the waves. All is quiet.
I have to be honest and say, when I got out of the music, got out of the music business, but I had my studio, and I was a little bit frustrated at the time. And people started to call me to come and sing on their trance records, young producers. And I took a lot of those jobs, little jobs. They wouldn't even let me write my own lyrics. No, because nobody wanted to give anything away anymore. That's how far it got, you know? And their lyrics were so bad. Not in the least, I'm sorry, from some German producers, oh my God. You know, and I would be sitting there with this paper in my studio, reading these lyrics that's in very bad English as well, and I couldn't even be bothered to correct it. That's how low I sank. That was the lowest of the low, I swear. And again, I had to use this voice. And again, it was about the universe collapsing or whatever. And then one day, I felt like a whore. I started to feel like a whore, a cheap one. And that's when I completely broke down, I think, and said, no more. Finished. Now we have to break it. I want to break free. Don't break your neck, huh? Now I'm into exploring my vocal possibilities, which means I'm now much more into improvising, making soundscapes, making jungle noises. I can tweet like a bird with a wonderful group of people, with a really wonderful group of people. Overtone, undertone. Only people who are into it will know what I'm talking about. And it's all just very quiet. We start at a quiet place. And sometimes from this quiet, we get into chaos because it's all improvised. You never know what's going to happen. And then it dies down again. It's highly meditative. And I think if I still have fans from before, I think they're either going to be shocked and they will laugh at me, or they'll say, you know what? She's cool. She's one cool chick because she does what she does, and she explores and she tries different things. But you know what? I'm doing it for myself. Back in '97, I made a great track with CJ Bolland called Sugar is Sweeter. Sugar Daddy!
daddy, come on and sugar me. I want your loving, so come on and give it me. Sugar daddy, oh, look at me. I'm begging for more.
We didn't even have a microphone in the studio. I had to sing in a headphone. Sugar daddy, come on and sugar me. And we lost track of each other right away after that. And I moved back to Antwerp 2 years ago. And I saw a friend of his who was a big rock star in Belgium. And I was afraid to talk to him. And then I saw him again 3 months later. And this time I talked to him. I said, look, I need to get in touch with CJ. And I know you're working with him. Give me his number now. So CJ came around 15 minutes after. He goes, what happened? Why did we only do Sugar is Sweeter? Why did we separate like that? Because we never had a fight, him and me, or nothing, you know. So now we're working on a new album, CD. And it's just really great to work with him again, because he's so cool.
CJ Bolland is considered to be one of the most stylistically influential producers of the early era of techno. With projects such as Sonic Solution, The Project and Rave Signal on R&S Records, he was responsible for a number of techno classics. After a bout with a major label and a top 10 hit with Sugar is Sweeter in the mid-90s, he devoted himself to other musical challenges. But he certainly hasn't been idling his time away.
1, oké, ik ben er. 1, 2.
Dat je zo in die kopstem gaat, zo...
Kijk, dat deed, maar want ik
Ja, maar nog zo heel extreem doen. Te gek, dat is best zo. Ik zou nu op de tweede... Ken je de tweede strofe nog?
It was funny bumping into Nikki again, because we haven't actually seen each other for about 10 years since the Sugar is Sweeter single. She was still working with Morris and all kinds of stuff, and we just parted ways. And we've always still been friends. We just never really did any work together again. And then we bumped into each other in a pub here in Antwerp. And you know, over a few beers, just like, hey, remember the good old days? Oh, we laughed, and let's do it again. And because I was working on this new techno material again, I thought, well, yeah, why the hell not? Let's just bring it back into the studio and we'll just see what comes from it. And the thing with Nikki is, you know those chicks that kind of like, oh, I'm so crazy. Nikki isn't. She just is insane. And she doesn't have to fake it at all. And she just brings this natural, off-the-plot madness into the studio, which I like to work with. It's fun, and crazy stuff happens. And that's why it's good to see her again.
I can sing. Thank you.
Oh, that was the max. Great.
Get away from techno, basically, after a long, drawn-out techno career, which was great, which I actually still love doing, but I just need to do something else for a while. And I met Tommy, who is the lead singer-songwriter for the band Deus, and originally the idea was that we would do a project together, which was traditional song structures, but with a lot of electronic production. And we ended up doing that project. It came out under the name Magnus. We had such a good experience together that Tommy asked me if I would be up for producing his band. Not having any experience in producing rock bands, but during the Magnus, we did use a lot of live musicians. So I thought, well, as challenging, it's going to be like a good school for me as well, but it also something I really wanted to do, and it worked out really well. So I ended up doing more albums for them and ended up working with different rock bands as well in Belgium and even in the UK and stuff, and just really got onto a sidetrack, which became my main thing, producing other bands. And after all that, now I actually really fancy doing another techno album just to see what it was like again. For me personally, as a producer, I mean, I don't consider it like important. I mean, it's up to anybody, his own opinion or whatever they want to do, to constantly change directions. But I can't personally constantly do the same thing. I would just go nuts. I'd just be bored stiff. I mean, even within techno, when I was producing techno stuff, I couldn't just stick to one style. It's not exciting. I just get bored in the studio. And beyond those barriers, I just needed to do something completely different. I can't imagine a whole career based around one sound. It just, I would get bored. I would end up doing something else. So for me, definitely, I'd need to diversify a lot. When I was back on RNS, I don't think any of us really thought that we were doing something that was totally new. We were just having a laugh, basically. We were just having a good time. I came out of the electronic body music scene, which I was really, really big into, especially bands like Front 242, the big Belgian bands, and obviously loads of German bands that were fantastic back in those days. And I actually wanted to make body music, but I just, for some reason, ended up making body music with a big fat techno beat. It just ended up being something else. So in those days, none of us really knew exactly. I mean, it's the same in history. I mean, when you're doing something at that moment in time, you never realize how big repercussions it's going to have or where it's going to lead. And looking back at it now, yeah, it's great to have been a part of all that, but in that day, we were just having a laugh. Well, I was always a gadget freak. I always used to collect and buy drum machines and all kinds of anything that made noise. Basically, I was always a big fan of. And over the years, obviously, a lot of that's changed completely. I mean, there's more gadgets than ever, but they're all software. You can't actually grab hold of them anymore. But some of the stuff now is well, it's beyond amazing. The possibilities you have technically now for production-wise tools, special effects, synths, keyboards, sampling, it's astonishing. I can't even keep up with it. Whereas I used to pride myself in being ahead. You know, I knew every machine. I knew what it was all about. I knew all the parameters. I'm a very technical person, and I used to pride myself in knowing everything. Now I just can't follow. I just called my 18-year-old buddy who lives around the corner. I said, "Explain that shit to me again." You know, the kids, they know how old they grew up with this. They know how it all works. And I love both worlds. I love the hands-on, the old school, the old machines, and the fatness of the sound of the old machines. But I do actually genuinely really dig the stuff, the digital side, and especially the endless possibilities. Although being a perfectionist, which is a bit of a nightmare, when you've got endless possibilities, you need to know when to say stop. So I usually need somebody in the studio and they go, "CJ, leave it alone. Just store it. It's there. It's good and it's good. Leave it." Because I just tend to get carried away. Because I can just sit and tweak things forever. I'm of an age now, I'm of a level of maturity where I've really stopped caring about, well, in a certain sense, about my image in the way that I'm not trying. I don't have any big statements, any message to convey. I've done all that. I've been through the whole, you know, I have a certain level of what we say in Belgium, ancienniteit, which means I have a level of maturity where I've already established certain things. And now I just want to have a good time. Basically, I want to have a laugh in the studio. I want to enjoy making my techno again. I want to just, you know, feel good about it. So as it might seem from the outside as some sort of attempt to a comeback, I never really stopped. I've just been doing this as far as I can remember, and I've just been doing other things, and I just fancy doing this again, and whatever it is, no big deal.